decision for your family. PC Alert. If we can't reach you, we can't alert you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Tuesday, November 19th meeting of the Pierce County Council. The time is 3:02 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Krueger.
Here.
Councilmember Denson.
Here.
Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Here.
Councilmember Morrell.
Here.
Councilmember Mello.
Here.
You have 7 members present.
We have all 7 members present and a quorum. Item number 3 is our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, our moment of silence, and our land acknowledgement. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, followed by a moment of silence dedicated to our men and women serving overseas in the military, and then the land acknowledgement. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our land acknowledgement is that we acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish tribes. Coast Salish people have lived on and stewarded these lands since the time immemorial, and they continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step toward true allyship, and we commit to the uplifting of the voices, the experiences, and the histories of the indigenous people of this land. We're now at section 4, which is the approval of our agenda. Are there any objections to approving today's agenda as presented? Seeing no objection, the agenda is approved. On today's council agenda, there will be multiple opportunities for public comment. On the consent agenda, you may provide comment on any final action item. This does not include items on the consent agenda simply for introduction and scheduling. So the items on the consent agenda that are open for public comment include a set of minutes for approval, one appointment resolution, and a motion to rescind the final hearing date for ordinance 2024-569. Those are subject to public comment. During sections 8 and 9 of the agenda, we will take public comment on each resolution and ordinance individually. And finally, under community forum, there will be an opportunity to address the council on any topic that is not up for final action on today's agenda. For information on the rules for public participation, please review the bottom of page 1 of today's agenda. We're now at section 5, the consent agenda. Does any member wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Chair. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I move approval of the consent agenda as amended, moving item C2A to section 8 of the agenda.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda with the exception of moving item C2A to section 8 of our agenda. This is a public hearing on all of the other remaining items up for final action on the consent agenda. Does any member of the public wish to provide any comment on our consent agenda? I'll invite you to the podium if you do, if you're here in chambers. Not seeing anybody, come to the podium. Mr. Weinsbury, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on any final action items, press the raise hand icon in Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands at this time, Chair.
With no hands, we're going to close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda?
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin. Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the consent agenda is adopted. Section 6 is messages from the executive and other county elected officials. There is one message from the executive transmitting the following ordinance, which was approved and signed on November 13th, 2024. It was ordinance 2024-558. This is an ordinance of the Pierce County Council amending the Pierce County Salary Classification Plan to establish and revise classifications and salaries for the office of the Pierce County Council. Section 7, proclamations, recognitions, awards, and presentations. There are none today. We moved an item, so we're at Section 8, resolutions. We moved an item from our consent agenda. It's Resolution 2024-237. Councilmember Denson for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I move proposal number R 2024-237.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024-237. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number R 2024-237, a resolution of the Pierce County Council confirming the appointment of one new member, Paige Schultz, to the Gig Harbor Peninsula Land Use Advisory Commission.
Thank you. Paige, thank you for being with us. We know you're in our Zoom room. Thank you for making time. Hi there. We would love for you to briefly introduce yourself and share why you wish to serve. You're on mute, Paige.
Not bad. My name is Paige Schulte. I have 3 kids. I live in Gig Harbor, Washington, and I am active in the community. I'm looking to just get more involved and understand how to look at how Gig Harbor fits in with the larger Pierce County market and effects on land use for smart growth, and then land and property owners out here in the Gig Harbor market in the Key Peninsula.
Thank you for introducing yourself and sharing why you want to serve. It's great to have you. Any comments by council members before we open up for a public hearing? Well, this is a public hearing on this appointment of a new member to the Gig Harbor Peninsula Land Use Advisory Commission. Any member of the public here in council chambers wish to provide comment on this appointment resolution? Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-237, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands at the time, Mr. Chair.
With no hands, we're going to close the public hearing. Are there final remarks by council members? Councilmember Denson.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak in favor of this appointment. Ms. Schulte is a very successful and active realtor in the Gig Harbor, Key Peninsula, and beyond area, and she's very philanthropic in the community. She's involved in a lot of different organizations, particularly pertaining to kids, but beyond that as well. She's very involved and engaged, and certainly has a pulse on what's going on in the Gig Harbor market and beyond, I would say, as well. So I'm really, really thankful. I know she's extremely busy, so grateful for her time on the LUAC, and would ask for a vote of yes on this appointment.
Thank you. Councilmember Coover.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate Ms. Schulte coming up as well. I met her a couple months ago at an event out in Gig Harbor, and I was impressed with her enthusiasm and desire to serve. And being a real estate agent, I know that they have probably one of the most vested interests in maintaining the value and pristine of the lands and the homes and where people live. And so I just was excited to see her application and say thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Coover. Any other remarks? Well, thank you, Paige, for your willingness to serve our community. We really appreciate it, and the experience and commitment you're going to bring to the role. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on Resolution 2024-237?
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Coover.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're still under Section 8, resolutions. We have Resolution 2024-242S before us. Councilmember Hitchin for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move adoption of Resolution 2024-242S.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2024-242S. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number R 2024-242S, a resolution of the Pierce County Council revising the administrative guidelines for the office of the Pierce County Council.
Thank you. I'd like to call on our Chief of Staff, Ms. Julie Murray.
Good afternoon. Julie Murray, Chief of Staff. As before you, proposal number R 2024-242S would revise the Council's administrative guidelines. The Council, as the legislative branch of county government, is responsible for its own organization and rules of conduct pursuant to the county's charter. For the past 25 years, the Council has adopted guidelines to give employees of the office a source of information regarding their employment and to provide for standards and procedures for the Council with regard to its employment actions. The last update of the Council's administrative guidelines occurred in 2018, and at that time, 24 sections of the Pierce County Code were adopted by reference. Many changes have happened both in the code and in county operations in the past 5 years, and so before you is a revision that does 5 major things. The first is it does align and revise chapters, sections, or language to align with the changes to the Pierce County Code or Pierce County Administrative Guidelines. To give you some examples, a chapter has been added since 2018, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and that is incorporated into the Council's guidelines by reference. There's additional sections, to align, one of which was employee recognition events. And so a similar one is added to the Council's guidelines. And then there are multiple language changes. One example is the county moved to using the term pay cycle rather than pay period. So they're just general cleanup alignment to revisions that have been made for the past 5 years. The second is, in several instances, the term chief of staff is struck and instead appointing authority is used. And that the purpose of that is to recognize the different supervisory roles that exist now at the council, both the council members with their assistants as well as the chief of staff and the chief counsel. And so the hope with this revision is that if you were to change your organization internally in the future, you would not need to change your administrative guidelines to reflect that. Those supervisory functions would be aligned. The next is to distinguish council member assistants from other council employees. First being that to recognize that the staff to the council are nonpartisan positions and that the council member assistants can be partisan. Then in addition, the council member is responsible for determining that employee, the council member assistant's compensation, hours, and working conditions of employment. Currently, the administrative guidelines are unclear on that. In several instances, it refers to the chief of staff. And so this makes it clear that your relationship with your council member assistant is that of your own. The next is that it revises the responsibility of the employment committee, and to be clear that it can be impaneled for any purpose that the rules and operation and powers to it that currently are within the council's administrative guidelines as one of its duties. So this gives you the opportunity to defer functions of the Rules and Operations Committee and the guidelines to the Employment Committee. And then lastly, it clarifies the grievance committee and grievance procedures that are currently in the guidelines, clarifying that that procedure is limited to the subjects contained in Chapter 10, which are working conditions at the council. And so with that, I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
The questions for Ms. Murray about this proposal? I don't see any. Ms. Murray, thank you for leading this work and modernizing this so it's clear about our administrative guidelines. We're going to open up for a public hearing on Resolution 2024-242S. Any member of the public here in council chambers wish to provide comment on this resolution? Not seeing anybody come to the podium. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-242S, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. Mr. Chair, looks like we have one hand at this time. Phone number ending in 874. Please state your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Mello and council members. This is Thomas Wick. I have a question regarding these. Someone's speaking. Chair Mello, somebody's speaking over me. Can you address that, please?
No one's speaking over you. We can hear you just fine.
Okay, because I can hear people talking. That's why I asked. But anyway, thank you. So regarding administrative guidelines and changes to those, this is a statement and a question, but it's directly relevant to this. So many years ago, I was in the submarine service and overseas, and crew members had issues or concerns that they needed assistance with from their elected leaders. And I know for a fact that multiple crew members actually reached out to their senators and their congressmen, and they were able to get assistance from them. And so this is the concern and the question. So I'm reaching out to Ms. Denson, who represents me locally here in Pierce County, District 7, and she's not assisting me with county issues. So I find it troubling and concerning that, like I said, a shipmate can actually reach out to a congressman or a senator and get assistance with government-related issues, but I can't get assistance regarding county issues from Ms. Denson, who represents me in District 7. And as you all know from the most recent email communications I had with the Pierce County building official, I need her assistance, and I'm a little unclear as to why I'm not getting it. So I've asked repeatedly for assistance, and I'm asking again if Ms. Denson would do that. And I'm asking if the administrative guidelines, if there's something in there that maybe we could change so that a citizen could, so that maybe there could be some changes to that. And no, there's no point of order, who said that. This is completely relevant testimony, and I don't appreciate the interruption. So anyway, these are administrative guidelines for the council, and I'm just wondering, is there something that could be added or deleted that would allow the council to take some action on behalf of the constituent? Thank you, Chair Mello, and the council members for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
And at this time, we have no other hands, Chair.
With no other hands, we're going to close the public hearing. I don't typically address every commenter because oftentimes we have lots of diverse commenters, and that's not what's necessarily appropriate. But I just want to note that these administrative guidelines are not about the interactions about members and their various constituents. It's everything about the administrative guidelines about the functioning and administration of the office of the Pierce County Council. I know Councilmember Denson works incredibly hard to be responsive and work on innumerable issues on her constituents' behalf, and I know her to be very, very responsive, and so I didn't want that to go unanswered. We have Resolution 2024-242S before us. Are there any final remarks? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on Resolution 2024-242S?
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're now at Section 9, Ordinances. We have Ordinance 2024-556S before us. Councilmember Denson, for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I move proposal number O 2024-556S.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt Ordinance 2024-556S. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number O 2024-556S, an ordinance of the Pierce County Council amending Section 4A.30.30 of the Pierce County Code, School Impact Fee Schedule, to adjust school impact fees for 2025 based upon changes in the construction cost index and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Swanson to brief.
Yes, thank you, Chair Mello and council members. Before you this afternoon is the annual adjustment to the school impact fee schedule. The Growth Management Act authorizes local governments to assess one-time charges on new development projects to help offset the cost of increased demand on public services. One such fee is the school impact fee. These fees can only be used to fund capital school facility improvements and may not be used for operational or maintenance costs. In Pierce County, districts submit to the county their calculations of the impacts of new residential development for both single family and multifamily. These fees are calculated on a per unit basis and then discounted by 50%. Subsequently, county staff calculates what's called a maximum fee obligation, which is based on the 20-city average construction cost index, which is published by Engineering News Record. The maximum fee obligation, or MFO as we call it, is then it's also adjusted annually and then is rounded to the nearest $5 increment, rounded up to the nearest $5 increment, I should say. The fee charged on any new development, whether it be single family or multifamily, is the lower of the district the given district's calculation or the maximum fee obligation. So whichever number is lower in that given district, that is the amount that is charged on a per unit basis. A memo showing the calculations of the MFO is included in your packet. For single-family dwellings, the MFO would be set at $4,595, which represents a $50 increase from the 2024 schedule. And then for multifamily dwellings, the MFO would then be set at $2,435, which is a 25% increase from last year. An equity analysis has been completed and is included in your packet. Your packet notes a no or de minimis fiscal impact. I would note that that's because the county serves as a pass-through entity for these dollars. We collect them and then distribute them to the districts in which the fee is being assessed. With that, Mr. Chair, we have both council and finance staff are available to answer any questions members may have. And also we do have one amendment.
Thank you. Let me turn to the department first. Is there anything from the finance department on this? Ms. Wang, you're in the Zoom room on behalf of the finance department. Anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Thank you for making yourself available. Do members have questions before we take up Amendment 1? Don't see any. Councilmember Hitchen for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move Committee Amendment Number 1 to O-2024, move for adoption, Committee Amendment Number 1 for O-2024-556S.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt Council Amendment Number 1. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this Council Amendment 1 is the amendment would update the schedule, which is Exhibit A, to the ordinance. This schedule will be updated with new information that the county has recently been provided by the Bethel School District. Bethel's calculated impacts for this year for a single-family dwelling, they would that column in the exhibit would be updated with these numbers. For a single-family dwelling, the school district calculation column would be $20,530, and for the multifamily dwelling, that would be updated to $57,535. These calculations are both higher than the maximum fee obligations for those for both the single family and the multifamily categories. Thus, any new residential development in the Bethel School District for 2025 would be charged that $4,595 for a single family unit, or the $2,435 for a multifamily unit. So that'd be the effect of the amendment, but it would update our table with the most recent information we've received from the Bethel School District.
Thank you. Questions on Amendment 1? Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question, Mr. Swanson, pertains to Bethel. I look at their formula calculations, and I don't think I've ever seen one this high on the multifamily. And what is the reason why they show a 0 previously in that multifamily category?
Thank you, Councilmember Morell. And I will preface that by saying a big work of the school impact fee working group that was put together last year is getting into a couple of those, the radical swings we've seen from year to, and it's not just Bethel, it's multiple districts have seen very high swings between their calculations from one year to the next. That's one thing that the working group is looking at, that we don't have those recommendations for this year. We're anticipating them for next year. And then another thing is that question you're getting at is that kind of gap between not just swing, but yeah, the large gap that exists between district calculations and that maximum fee obligation, and the adequacy of that. With Bethel in particular, I went back and I've only reviewed the last couple years of their sheets, and I would note that the review we do at the county of the information that comes in from the districts is really about making sure their numbers add up. We make sure 5 + 5 = 10 on their sheets. We don't go and we don't have the data to look at their underlying variables that they put together. As far as Bethel goes, the two big cost increases that would increase that number between 2022-23 and then to the 24, the numbers we just received. Their facilities cost increased dramatically. That could be due to a couple things. One could be increased construction costs. One could be new projects added in to that pot. But the main factor is what's called the student factor, is a calculation ratio of what is anticipated for the number of new students that are generated per new unit coming in on a development. Bethel historically, and this gets to why they had the 0 and why they're now the highest. Again, this is somewhat, I don't know the internals of what created those factors. I know just looking at the sheets that are before me. But previously, when they were a negative number, Bethel had by far the lowest student factor that had been calculated. They were an entire decimal point farther back than the other districts for the most part. They were at, for example, 0.028, 0.031. Most districts are like a 0.2 or a 0.3, 0.4 right in there. This calculation that came in for Bethel's multifamily, the student factor is at 0.75. Now, I don't have the underlying data to go in and actually look at what creates that 0.75. But again, instead of a 0.028, going to a 0.75 is a dramatic difference when you couple that, again, with the increased facilities cost. That's, as far as just the math being calculated, that's the difference in Bethel's number.
Okay, getting back to the 0, I see Stillicum has it too. Were they not getting multifamily impact fees before?
Well, we would note these are the fees that are charged in the unincorporated portion of Pierce County, not the city portion. And as far as Stillicum, they have a very small portion of unincorporated Pierce County in their district, and there isn't multifamily development in there. So that's why Stillicum is zeroed out.
Okay, I just remember the previous superintendent jumping up and down that he wasn't getting multifamily impact fees. So either they corrected their formula and now they're going to get them. So I was just kind of curious. Thank you.
And I would note the fee that will be charged for both of those categories for Bethel is that maximum fee obligation for both the single family and the multifamily, not the number calculated by the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been an ongoing issue, especially with Bethel, as Councilmember Morell notes, and we are working on fixing that. So for the first time, I think, to my understanding, ever, Bethel School District will be receiving an allocation for multifamily.
My records don't go back that far to say ever, but in the
That's a big statement.
I can account for the last 5 years.
For a long time, for the last 5 years at least. Thank you. Okay, any other questions on Amendment 1? Take a voice vote on the adoption of Council Amendment number 1. Please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion's adopted. We have the proposal in front of us as amended. We're going to open up for a public hearing. Anyone here in council chambers on this proposal, school impact fees schedule, please come to the podium. State your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. There's a timer to your right. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I'm Jeff Mann, Facilities Planner with the Bethel School District, and do appreciate your consideration and vote with regard to the amendment. We have been concerned, of course, over these last few years with regard to the multifamily impact fee. However, we've really not done anything particularly special to, we were concerned about it, but we've used the same consultant who used geocoded addresses, who tied that to permits, and we used the same time frame, 2 years, and this year it resulted in a higher factor for multifamily. The other factor, as Mr. Swanson indicated, is that we have, coming into the construction window, we have not only a high school, but a middle school and 1 elementary school. So we have a significant block of our bond projects in the window for impact fees. And so that's also another factor that created that larger number. So we're grateful for it. We feel like this will benefit our students as we have those impact fees to use for their benefit. And again, we express our appreciation for your vote for the amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in council chambers? Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsbury, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number O2024-556S, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And I see no hands at this time, Mr. Chair.
With no hands, we're going to close the public hearing. Are there final remarks by council members? Councilmember Denson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick note to thank our staff person, Mr. Swanson, for all of his work on this. It's complicated, this formula, and I appreciated him explaining that. I also wanted to thank my colleague, Councilmember Hitchen. We spent a number of meetings with the School Impact Fee Working Group, and that constituted people from the building industry as well as our school districts and others. So I want to thank all these volunteers for taking their time. Typically on Fridays, that's when we could all get together to hash through this and try and think about the best ways that we could come up with formulas and amounts that made sense for the school districts and for the private sector. So just want to thank everyone involved. This was definitely a lot of work led by our very able staff person, Tom Swanson. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other remarks? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on ordinance 2024-556S?
Councilmember Hitchen.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We're now at item 2, ordinance 2024-560. Councilmember Morrell for a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for approval proposal O 2024-560.
Second. It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2024-560. Madam Clerk, please read the title to the record.
Proposal number O 2024-560, an ordinance of the Pierce County Council authorizing wage adjustments for non-represented employees, amending the Pierce County salary classification plan, and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Boki, to brief.
Thank you, Chair Mello, Paul Boki, Council staff. This ordinance will authorize a wage adjustment of 4% effective January 6th, 2025. That's the beginning of the year, but that's the first pay period of the year. For all non-represented employees, the adjustment will impact 1,242 full-time equivalent employees. The fiscal impact is estimated at $6.2 million in 2025. Non-represented employees are located throughout the county government, so the financial impact is also spread out amongst the various funds. They're not all in the general fund. This was given a due pass recommendation at the November 12th Rules and Operations Committee meeting. There was a question at that meeting about Y-rated, how many employees are Y-rated. There is one employee in county government that is Y-rated, and it's a result of a discussion with labor relations and the union, and it's not based on a comp class study. So we've received that information from finance. The finance department, Mr. Gary Robinson and Ms. Julie DeMuth are here to answer any of your questions, and they could maybe speak to that if you'd like.
Thank you. Director Robinson, anything to add on behalf of the finance department? No, thank you. Thank you for being here. Any council members have any questions before we open up for a public hearing? Not seeing any questions. This is a public hearing on ordinance 2024-560. Any member of the public wish to provide comment here in council chambers, please come to the podium. Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsberg, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number O2024-560, press the raise hand icon in Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands at this time, Chair.
With no hands, we're going to close the public hearing. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the adoption of ordinance 2024-560?
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We're at ordinance 2024-561. Councilmember Herrera for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I move proposal number 02024-561 for approval.
Second. It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2024-561. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number O2024-561, an ordinance of the Pierce County Council amending Chapter 9.47 of the Pierce County Code, jail incarceration rates, to establish rates for booking, special identification, and incarceration of inmates at the Pierce County Jail, and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly, to brief.
Thank you, Chair Paulo, and members of the Council. For the record, Andrea Kelly, Council staff. So the proposed ordinance in front of you today regarding jail incarceration rates, Pierce County Corrections provides jail services as needed for other local governments on misdemeanor matters. The charging rates were first codified in 2016. Pierce County Code reads that the rates shall be reviewed each biennium by the council in conjunction with the adoption of the biennial budget and at any other time that the council deems appropriate. The rates are developed based on a rate model that looks at the cost drivers for operating a jail, and the rate model has been used for several years, and the model has been reviewed with customer jurisdictions. The proposal amends 2025 rates for the standard daily and the mental health daily rates with an increase of approximately $9 for each. These are the daily rates for the general population and mental health housing classifications. The 2025 rates for booking, escort, and special identification process remain unchanged. The equity note has been completed by the department in addition to a fiscal note and reflects approximately $200,000 in revenue for 2025. The proposal received a due pass recommendation at the Committee of the Whole on November 13th. As indicated earlier, finance staff is available for questions, and that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Does the finance department have anything to add? Nothing to add here from the finance department. Any questions of our staff or department staff before we open up for a public hearing? Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Kelly, I don't remember if this question was asked. We were being presented with a new medical contract for the corrections for the jail. Has that been figured into these rates? Do you know?
I believe that is still under negotiation, but I would have to defer to department staff.
And this contract will become effective in 2025?
Council Chair, Gary Robinson with the Finance Department. Currently, the Sheriff's Department is negotiating with a provider to continue medical services for the jail. The new contract would become effective in January of 2025. You have included in your supplemental budget before you an increase in appropriation authority for Corrections Bureau, in part to cover assumed cost for increased medical services. That rate has also been incorporated into these jail rates. So there's a portion of the increase that's attributable to changes associated with medical services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, this is a public hearing on ordinance 2024-561. We're going to begin here in the council chambers. Anyone wishing to provide comment? I'll invite you to the podium. Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comments on proposal number O2024-561, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And I see no hands at this time, Mr. Chair.
With no hands, we're going to close the public hearing. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the adoption of ordinance 2024-561?
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin. Councilmember Morell.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We're at item number 4 under ordinances. We have ordinance 2024-562 before us. Councilmember Denson, for a motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I move proposal number O2024-562.
Okay.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2024-562. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number O2024-562, an ordinance of the Pierce County Council levying an assessment in 2024 for collection in 2025 against land in Pierce County for the control of noxious weeds.
Last line.
2025 annual budget.
Thank you. Mr. Boki to brief.
Thank you, Chair Mello, Paul Boki, council staff. This is the annual approval of both the assessment for noxious weeds purposes and for the budget for the Noxious Weed Control Board. The RCW Revised Code of Washington authorizes counties to levy an assessment against land for noxious weed control purposes. This proposal will set a property assessment in 2025 for control of noxious weeds. The 2025 assessment rate for non-exempt parcels is proposed to be $1.79 per parcel plus 16 cents per acre. This is the same as the assessment in 2024. The last time the rate was changed was in 2020. The list of properties exempt from the assessment is listed on page 2, section 3 of the proposal. Noxious weed control is a county-wide function. Therefore, properties in both incorporated and unincorporated areas are assessed. The assessment is done, it's a fee. It's done as part of your property taxes annually, much like the surface water management assessment is done. The RCW states the activated county noxious weed control board of each county shall annually submit a budget to the county legislative authority for operating cost of the county's weed program for the ensuing year. And this has been provided in Exhibit A. The budget for 2025 is $640,000. There was a question at the Rules Committee about maximum allowed by state law, and there currently is no maximum, or they could not find one. There's no maximum known at all right now under state law. This was given a due pass recommendation at the November 12th, 2024 Rules and Operations Committee meeting, and Ms. Donna Peoples from the Noxious Weed Control Board is in the Zoom room.
Thank you, Mr. Bookey. Ms. Peoples, do you have anything to add on behalf of the Noxious Weed Control Board here in Pierce County?
No, sir, I do not. Thank you for asking.
Well, thank you for being available. Are there questions before we open up for a public hearing? Not seeing any. This is a public hearing on ordinance 2024-562. Any members of the public here in council chambers wish to provide public comment? Not seeing anybody come up. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number O2024-562, press the raise hand icon in Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And I see no hands this time, Chair.
We're going to close the public hearing. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the adoption of ordinance 2024-562?
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We're at item 5, ordinance 2024-567S. Madam Clerk, please read.
You want to move it first?
Yes, thank you. Vice Chair Campbell for a motion, please.
Thank you, and now I've lost
I
my
caught
track.
myself.
There we are. We're at 6-7, right?
We're at 567S.
Chair, I would like to move approval of proposal number O, 2024-567S.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2024-567S. Madam Clerk, will you now please read the title into the record?
Proposal number O 2024-567S, an ordinance of the Pierce County Council amending Chapter 14.20 of the Pierce County Code, Parks and Recreation Service Fees by
Last line,
amending
please.
fact and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Swanson to brief the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and council members. Before this afternoon is an update to the Parks and Recreation Service Fee Code. The proposal does several things. The proposal adds 2 new sections to Chapter 14.20 of the Pierce County Code. Both those are shown in Exhibit A in your packet. The first of those new sections is Section 14.20.090, Military and Veterans Discounts. This new section largely takes language related to discounts for the military and veteran community that are currently spread throughout this chapter of the code. And then what it does is it consolidates them into their own section in this new section. So these are discounts that already exist. They're just being consolidated into a new section. Those discounts provided are 25% for outdoor shelters, facility rentals, and county-sponsored programs, 50% on parking and boat launch fees, and then a full exemption on fees for disabled veterans and Gold Star families. The new section also then goes on to detail like the forms of IDs that are necessary in order to receive these discounts. The second new section is 14.20.100. This is jurisdiction, residency, and partnership fee adjustments. This section allows parks the discretion to charge non-Pierce County residents different fees for various programs that are offered. The proposal goes on to also add non-Pierce County resident fees for both parking and boat launching at North Lake Tapps Park, with the current fees becoming then the de facto Pierce County resident fees. The parking fee for a non-Pierce County resident at, again, North Lake Tapps Park would be set at $15, while that boat launch fee would be set at $30. Finally, the proposal requests park staff to submit to council by March 1st, 2025, a draft ordinance to establish separate walk-in fees at North Lake Tapps Park for both those separate fees for both Pierce County residents and for, again, non-residents. And again, that draft ordinance is to be submitted to council by March 1st of 2025. These changes would all take effect on January 1st of 2025 in the code. With that, Mr. Chair, we do have both council staff and we have the Parks Director available on the call to answer any questions.
Thank you. Madam Director, do you have anything to add on behalf of the department?
No, I do not. Thank you, Chair. He covered it well.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Any council members have any questions before we open up for public hearing? Let's see, this is a public hearing on ordinance 2024-567S. Anyone here in council chambers wish to provide comment? Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comments on proposal number O2024-567S, press the raise hand icon in Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands, Mr. Chair.
With no hands, we're going to close the public hearing. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the adoption of ordinance 2024-567S?
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Merle.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We're now at Community Forum, Section 10 of our agenda. Community Forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on any topic that is of significance to or affecting Pierce County government and that did not appear for final action on today's agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit. Please state your name if you would like it on the record and address all your comments to the chair. We'll start with those in council chambers. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Joshua Osford. I live at 28812 Hinkleman Road in Buckley, Washington. I'm the president of the Citizens Alliance for Property Rights in Pierce County. There was a conversation yesterday related to Councilmember Campbell trying to understand each one of these policies and how they affect cumulatively, for example, the rural areas. So I wanted to take this time today and distill this down. I made some notes on how these are all going to come together. Changes in the comp plan that would have responded to the inquiry of PSRC/Commerce objecting to rural growth targets versus policies. So there was also a discussion about what happens if there's pushback related to these two, Amendment 12 and another one related to R5 not being enacted. Critical area ordinances updated requires wetland studies for SFR and ADUs. Previously, this was exempt. Critical area update now removes exemption for small isolated class 4 wetlands. Buffers on average are doubled. Buildable lands available after the above has been implemented is significantly reduced. The Burke study does not reflect that. So that's something that the master builders even has asked for as a group in the past. Land left currently is the most difficult to get approval for septic and wells. The Burke study doesn't reflect that either. Costs now exceed $50,000 to $100,000 to do a simple short plat of 2 to 4 or 5 to 10 lots. So cost is becoming a significant issue. Cultural resource studies are now required on most rural parcels. This was previously exempt. So overall regulations in the rural zones have been increased substantially along with subsequent costs associated that could decide on the rural, that could offset deciding on removing density related to the rural density bonus or R5 down zone. These issues as a whole could be a justification of saying why we're not going to change the ability to plat property in the rural areas, because there is a significant increase in regulations that, as a builder developer, make it much more difficult for the remaining properties to get through the process. So I just want to, I think a lot of members of the council understand this, but the reason certain parts of this county were developed decades ago is because it was the easiest and most cost effective. That's why you see this growth kind of developing the way it is. So something to think about as you go forward is how do all these buckets within the comp plan affect that rural area and what that would do to growth without changing policy. Thanks.
Anyone else in council chambers wishing to participate in community forum? Not seeing any. Mr. Weinsbury, anybody in the Zoom room for community forum?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment, press the raise hand icon in Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And it looks like we have one hand this time, two hands this time. First, phone number ending in 874. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, Chairman, this is Thomas Wick again. I wanted to, you said that Ms. Stenson was incredibly responsive to her constituents. So she's been copied on basically almost every email regarding multiple issues, and I haven't heard her follow up with me. She has not. So I guess she's listening right now. This is my only opportunity to communicate with her, but I'm on the record doing so. So I am respectfully requesting that via email, she answered 2 questions for me by the week's end. She has my email address. So I would like to know why Pierce County rendered permit 761519 invalid in 2017. They acquired engineering documents on their own without my knowledge and consent, and they used those engineering documents that were not valid for permitting purposes to reissue the permit, which rendered it invalid. So I need to know why. And the building official very recently communicated via email that she was not going to disclose that. I have a right to know. I paid for the permit. It was valid. It was unlawful conduct, and it left me damaged. And I need to know why they did it so that I can assess feasibility of project completion. I'd also like Ms. Stenson, if she would do the same via email, find out from the Sheriff's Department why Pierce County has continuing to refuse to provide me the unfalsified, unedited.
Vice Chair Campbell, state your point.
Council members don't have the investigative authority. I think that's being asked here to investigate or look at permits or within the Sheriff's Department. They're both independent. The permitting is under the Executive's office. The Sheriff's Department, Sheriff is independently elected. So I would make sure that the person asking is asking requests that we have clear authority over.
Thank you. Mr. Wick. Mr. Wick, you have 45 seconds left. Please continue.
Thank you. And I'd like to address the councilman's point of order. I am unable to get this information. I wasn't asking Ms. Stenson to do any investigation on my behalf. What I was asking her to do was pick up the phone and call Mr. Potson, ask her the question, pick up the phone and ask the sheriff, and then get back to me. I was not asking her to do any investigative work. They have ceased all communication with me, so this is my only opportunity to communicate directly to Ms. Stenson, who represents me as, I'm a constituent.
Thank you.
So
Next, we have phone number ending in 581. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Star 6 to unmute.
Hello, my name is Mary Fransel. I live at 9520 South 237th Street in Kent. My family owns 25 acres on South Division Street, across the street from a new development of 71 houses in the city limits of Buckley. We have owned this land and other adjacent properties for 4 generations. Well, actually, with my grandsons now living in the family home, it's 5 generations. Since the Growth Management Act was passed, we have seen land use changes and downzoning that greatly reduced our property values while taxes each year continue to increase. In 2012, our property, along with many neighbors, was rezoned from R10 to agriculture resource. Even though we have tried for many years to grow crops, we failed to make a profit due to soil and weather conditions. What we didn't know at that time is that agricultural resource land is not able to be annexed into a city, even though this property is located across the street from 6 units per acre density and now a 71 housing development. We are expected to farm property that isn't suitable for farming and doesn't produce crops. I am 76 years old, and our family has been good stewards of this land for over 80 years. We want to be able to sell this land to salvage what's left of some sort of financial gain to pass on to our heirs. We are now being told that we could be downzoned again and lose half of our land value. I ask the council to consider what our family has endured for multiple generations and what's being lost before removing maximum density in the rural zone. I advocate supporting Amendment 12. It is unfair to continue downzoning our land and take away our financial future. Incidentally, only access to the property is by way of a city street. I can be reached or contacted for further information at 253-315-1581. Thank you for your kind consideration to this matter.
Thank you for being with us.
And at this time, there are no other hands, Chair.
With no other hands, we're going to close the committee forum portion of our meeting. We're at item number 11, other business and announcements. Is there any other business or announcements from council members? Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure everyone's tracking the weather that's coming up. I know that Pierce County is ready to go, and I just wanted to have a shout out for people to be safe out there and to get home safe and have a plan in some aspects. Our hearts go out to our public safety who are ready to go. Our fire departments, emergency management, PSC teams, road crews who probably have their chainsaws ready to go. And I can only imagine that there's somebody on Fort Lewis who's on guard duty in the middle of the woods, and that doesn't matter because you're going to continue to march forward. And to all our boat owners, to make sure that your boat is lashed down pretty good, because I'm sure nobody wants to have their boat out in the shipping lanes tomorrow. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those safety reminders, Councilmember Herrera. Are there any other announcements by council members? Not seeing Ms. Long. Any other business or announcements for the council this evening?
Not today, thank you.
With no other business before the Pierce County Council, we are adjourned.